Hello there, my name is Nick Davis. I am a ex-White Dwarfer from probably 1997 through to 2004, if you count my small renditions on the US version of the White Dwarf magazine. We're going to be looking today at White Dwarf 235, July 1999. But this White Dwarf is very special because it came with a free gamer supplement. This happened occasionally from time to time from Games Workshop, but in this case we have Codex Assassins. We're going to be looking, taking a dive into this book and taking a dive into this book as well. But first we're going to take a look at White Dwarf. But if anyone's interested, that cover there is by Wayne England. But before we go, I'm going to put this back for 1 second, is if you're interested in seeing more of my White Dwarf retrospective walkthroughs, please drop some coin on my Patreon. You can see it on the links below. Or if you want to help me with my comic book works, do the same thing. Or if you want to pick up my Night Guardian comic books, go to your local Amazon website and type in the Night Guardians by Nick Davis. You will find my books on there. My books are distributed via Amazon for international shipping, and you can check them out on there. So please support my budding comic book endeavours and check out a really cool fantasy adventure, especially if you're into dark fantasies like The Labyrinth or enjoy books like The Amulet. Anyway, that being said, like I said before, we're going to be looking at White Dwarf first and we're going to look at Orks Assassins. So let's take this book away and we will get started, okay? Let's get this nice and centered in the camera. Let's just check it out. Is it nice and centered? Yes, we are. One across, there across, there across. As I mentioned before, this cover is by Dave Gallagher, he of Scottish fame and cafe bike riding fame. We've changed a few things in this cover, which you're going to see going forward in the future White Dwarfs. Bigger logo here, and we've made this text here a lot bigger so you can see what number it is, what month it is, and how much the magazine is. We put this really small down the bottom here. There's some reasons for this. We're basically following some styling guides that was very popular in the 90s magazines at that time. Okay. Let's turn over the page and see what cuts loose, shall we? As you can see, let's get it across in the centre so you guys can see it properly. There we go. As you can see, the contents has changed a little bit more. We're making a bigger thing of the features, so you see more punchy out graphics. The departments are still the same, which we've basically been carrying on from like 1997. But what we've done now is making these things bigger. Is keep following the formatting styles of the 90s magazines like FHM, Maxim and Esquire. In this case, we've got 1, 2, 3 departments going on. We have, well, 4 if we count the regular Games Workshop, White Dwarf news departments. Warhammer's primarily going to be about zombies and necroarchs. Codex, Warhammer 40k is definitely going to be about Codex Orks, as you can tell, big Orc feature, but I think there is some Dark Elder and a Space Marine piece in here as well. And of course, Battlefield Gothic features the infamous Space Marine battle barges. So there we go. That's basically what we've got to look forward to in this White Dwarf. So let's turn the page and see what cuts loose, shall we? First off, let's start off. This is a UK edition, so we get to see the White Dwarf blogs. There's Paul there, obviously. If I blog, there's me underneath Paul there. There's Mad Doc, Graham Davey, basically wordy elite guy. Simon Schuker, fantastic guy. Ian Compton, Matthew Hudson, and Matt Nichols are still on the books. And we have some news going on here. Now, this is a really weird issue because we're going to be talking about orcs in a White Dwarf. There's no Adrian Wood, and Adrian Wood is Mr. Orc, isn't he? That's right. You know, I've played many games against him, with my Imperial Guard and my Dark Elder, and he is the epitome of an orc player. Fantastic guy, great laugh to play against, great gamer. But we're going to be talking about Codex Orks here. There, we're talking about the 3 Codex Assassins, which is that book just there. Now, I took a look through this magazine. And I was trying to remember what articles I actually worked on for this magazine. I have a funny feeling I was pulled away and basically working on the Codex Assassins as I was the only person that came over from basically game production. So I might have been working on that team. But I was looking at Codex Assassins and I didn't really recognise any of the bits and pieces in there too. But bearing in mind I have a Swiss cheese memory, it's a good chance I probably worked on it and I don't remember a damn thing. Anyway. This basically big plastic release this month is going to be The Walking Dead. Obviously, say the zombies, fantastic things for conversions and for making wonderful armies with as well. Standard news section, Space Marine Fleet is here as well, from strike cruisers. Codex Elder is coming up, giving you a little taster of what's to come. I think that's is that another Dave Gallagher cover? Well, we'll find out when we get there what that is. Some beautiful previous artwork, and White Dwarf is still looking for new bodies. There we go. Anyway. Let's take a look at Codex Orks here. Whoa, look at that nice dark cover there. Gork told me to do it. This is Andy Chambers' designer notes for Codex Orks. We take pictures and artwork from the actual Codex magazine and put it into the White Dwarf so you can basically see what's coming up. And Andy Chambers gives you a description of basically what we've done with the Orks. They've gone back to brutal and savage, so basically comically brutal. This is basically an influence from the Gorka Morka, and I'm for one very glad to see Orks make this change. where they look a little bit more savage and closer to basically the brutal savages they should be. Talk about guns, we talk about the clans. The clans still exist, but they don't exist in basically they used to exist in Warg Orc, where they were you belong to various clans that give you various definitions. I think that came along later in later ideas, but these are pretty much you get different types of orcs and they all look the same. The only difference with the clans is they painted differently. So nice little picture. Again, these pictures would be lifted from the Orc Codex itself. Stone Boys was a little disappointing because they were basically Orc commandos, and I still felt they should have been a little bit more military-like since they were blood axes and influenced by the Imperial advisors that they worked for. Orc Invasion. This is a plastic box set, so likely I worked on this because it's a plastic box set, and I got to work on all the plastic box set releases. Something very strange with the colouring here. I noticed when I was going through the White Dwarf, they're a lot darker down here. Looks like we've don't think we've added up the black here, but I think there's an increase in magenta on the print press. You can see a little bit later as we go on. Some things are going to look a little bit fuzzy, a little bit out of fit. We may be having some issues with colourings at the time. There's a lot of dark here as well. I don't remember passing this on press because I would have gone a little bit lighter. So whoever passes on press probably had a little bit too magenta to the mix, but there might be a reason depending on what's up in the printer's pairs up there. Fantastic Orc War Boss by Brian Nelson. I think that's absolutely fantastic there. Some of the orky heavy stuff that's coming to pieces here. Dreadnoughts are really, really cool. I still like Adrian Wood's Dreadnoughts more than these, but they're still a nice rendition, making that nice and clunky. Then we've got the Stone Boys there. As I mentioned before, I wish these Stone Boys were just a little bit more realistic and not quite as Orc Savage, because that would make more sense. Sort of like you look at the Stone Boys here with basically the 2 rocket packs, that makes more sense to me than single rockets. But you're still really nice miniatures here. And you can see the mech boys down here. Same way here. You can see a lot, they're very dark. It looks like it's been a very huge magenta gain down there in terms of the printer. Remember back in the day, these were basically passed on press. On big, huge printers that basically printed huge sheets at a time. Give me 1 second, I'll have a quick sip. Okay. Teas down me, mouse water, we can keep going. Okay, so this is basically the Black Library Open Day stuff. Black Library is the Warhammer World, and I think it's the Warhammer World Exhibition Centre now, where you can basically pop in and see exhibits from the Games Workshop through the ages. Masters of Alchemy. Thomas Perrin talks about the vampire bloodlines, and this time it's the Necroarchs, who are basically closer to the Nosferatu type vampires that we're used to. I'm looking at this, and I'm pretty certain I laid this one out because I have memories of doing the cut here for the formatting of the text. I'm also a bit more gentle with the formatting of the text than other people are, because I look for widows and orphans as I put the text in here. As I mentioned before, it's looking a bit fuzzy down here, but I think the fit was just off. That basically means it was slightly squinched. That probably means the paper was stretched a little bit too much when they ran this one. And we go here, Betrayal of Nicodemus by Alessio Cavatore. Basically, it's a wonderful piece of colour text background written by Alessio, talking about the Necroarchs and how they basically were betrayed by other vampires. And it's a great little piece. Characters piece. Fresh from the Grave, Honey and Warhorse. Looking at the new stuff coming here, I probably laid this one out here again as well, because I was the one who pretty much got tapped for this sort of stuff. Doomwolf is really like almost looks like a 3D representation. You've got those 3D glasses on, they might pop out on you, but that's what we've got going on here. That's really weird. Those guys running away from there it's just odd. It's just odd. Games Day 99, the Golden Demon 99 competition. Golden Demon winners 1999. Gorka Morka, that's a nice Gorka Morka piece. I really like that. Talking about the competition guidelines, what's to come, and the Youngbloods competition. Black Library, here is some of the releases. We talked these basically the size of these adverts to death, but they are very nice, very graphically done. I just wish they actually understood how to use page layout in InDesign instead of just Photoshop, which these are all done in. Razner's War Boys. This is a Grand Tournament army. So it's a really nice little army here. We basically, when we're at the Grand Tournaments, we actually look for armies to photograph. We may tap you on the shoulder. Back in the day, we tapped you on the shoulder and brought you to the studio to photograph your army and then let you go back to playing. So this is why these things existed as a thing. I'm hoping this is still working. Yes, it is. I'm having some real trouble with my camera today, so that's a really weird interlude. It keeps flicking on and off of me. This is my third attempt to go through this magazine. Beautiful army, nicely photographed on basically the standard studio Warhill. It looks really nice. I really like the way he did his big lobbers from basically using orky bits. Then we have Fanatic Press, talking about Gang War and Death Blow. I like the idea of Warhammer Quest. That was kind of interesting as supplements. That, I don't know, probably could have sat better in the journal, but that's just my thinking there. Battle of Wolf and River, this was done by not Simon Sush, I think this was probably Matt Nichols probably laid this one out. And we've got bits and pieces going ahead, talking about, this is historical scenarios based on Warhammer history, and this is one of those games. Imperial Guard Mosterland versus the Necromancer Army of the Restless Dead. Oh my god, you remember that? Oh, that was a weird miniature. It really was. Looking for queries at these things, the positions. Now you may notice there's a change in the layouts for this area here. The retail and sales pieces were done basically by a specialist design team. One of the designers for that special design team was Andy Sharman, and they basically handled all the barcodes and all the sales stuff that you see going into the retail, and also basically did the magazine pages for White Dwarf. So there's a whole section now which we never even touched anymore. It was basically touched by the retail team, retail design team, which is great. It means they basically freed us up to do more White Dwarfy stuff. Declines of Stars, talk about Space Marine fleets of Gothic Sector by Gathorpe and Andy Chambers. This is pretty much a look at the Space Marine battle barges and the Scepters and Astartes fleets. I always felt weird that basically these guys never got involved in fleet actions, because they're Astartes and they're planetary assault ships, and the ships are pretty much planetary assault ships. So they should have basically have lots of Navy escorts, I always feel, but that's just me. Battle barges and strike cruisers. Strike cruisers are really fun faster ships, and rapid strike vessels are kind of fun as well. So these are interesting. I also give you another look at Space Marines chapter organisation. These were basically crewed by chapter serfs. Space Marines that failed to become full Space Marines, or basically were part of the populace of the home planets that the Space Marines come from. Retail section done by Retail. Black Rage Plymouth Store Army. Yeah, that's a wonderful Blood Angel army. Yeah, I kind of like it. I actually really do. Kind of like the fact that basically got special camo guys there as well. If we actually go a bit closer to it, they look like a little bit like the old RB Marines in there. I think they are, actually. But I like the fact that basically they're a completely different colour to the rest of the army. That's really neat. And I like his land speeder here, who's really cool. Now, I always mentioned before, the land speeder looks like a English Robin Reliant. And you'll turn the page over here, and you'll see where I get the analogy from. See that? It's actually a pretty cool conversion of a land speeder into a heavy support vehicle. But I would just put one wheel in the front of it. Just really uked up the fact they look like Robin Reliants. Also like the fact that basically the Blood Angel bikes look like what I think war bikes should look like for Space Marines, which basically are mad, crazy, scrambler type bikes. So instead of the Lawmaster style bikes that we see them on now and again. Okay, let's turn the page over again. Through the retail stuff here, very powerful, strong sections. You can tell they've got a specific design section doing this for them now. Wheels on Fire, talking about Doom Rider, which is not to be confused at all with the Marvel character Ghost Rider. Again, I really like the look of the Chaos bikes, because I like them, because I like the fact that basically they look like they can go over old terrains, while these Space Marine bikes look like they can just go down a city street. So I like these ramped up suspension pieces and the broken front fairings. I think these really fit what Space Marine bikes should look like, and I've seen conversions of these guys used for normal Space Marine chapters over basically the standard Space Marine Codex style bike. Also, I love the fact that basically this is a blatant rip-off of Ghost Rider. That should be more of a skull face though. Torpedoes Way, Andy Chambers talks about basically new torpedoes for Battle Gothic. Torpedoes and the other pieces, like these fighters and assault ships and bombers, were insanely powerful. Your fighters, your carriers were more powerful than your battleships if you used them correctly, and I could never ever deal with them properly. But it's basically talking about special torpedo types and a lot of fun to play with in that area. Brace for Impact, extra rules and stuff for Battle Gothic and some rules of Arta. Ryan's World Incident. Now, if remember here who basically played Warhammer 1st Edition Rogue Trader will all know all about Ryan's World, where the Crimson Fists are almost completely massacred by a chance missile fired from an Ork attack cruiser. And this is basically updating the Ryan's World Incident into 40k with 3rd Edition rules and giving you some more background on what was going on in it. And talking about some of the scenarios and some of the things that happened there. It's almost like a step-by-step look back at the Ryan's World Incident campaign. In fact, the Battle for the Farm was actually a very nice scenario using the then released Metal Space Orks and the RB01 Space Marines, and you can make a fun little battle with like half a dozen figures. And that was the beauty of Rogue Trader back then. You didn't need full armies; it was basically down to almost individual squad actions. Gaming Around the Road Incidents talks about the missions you can use to basically play out Ryan's Road as a campaign, and it's actually a very interesting set of campaigns. And a little bit of colour text talking about basically how the Orks took Krugerport at that time. Zombie Regiment, this was laid out by me because I can tell, because it was you can tell when you look over the page. We're looking at conversions. I was using the zombies in various medias. We've got basically Matt Parks, how you model them, Colin Dixon, Matt Nichols, how they basically model out these plastic miniatures to make over plastic toy soldiers. There's my Archon's Raider there. I think in the end when I finally finished this piece, the Space Marine no longer was on the front of it. But basically, how to use these zombie pieces for conversions in over toy soldiers, over armies. I like the fact that the mix of the skeleton and the zombies here, that's a really good idea. And again, we're breaking some rules here by basically showing grey plastic, metal pieces, and basically plastics all together, showing you the bare bones of how you can basically make your toy soldiers from other toy soldiers. Getting the Vampire Count's army, yes, this is something completely different here. Remember, I started off doing White Dwarf, doing the collecting the armies things. I told Paul Sawyer I didn't want to do them anymore because I didn't play those armies, and let's get people who play these armies to actually talk about these armies. And Matt Hudson, new White Dwarf by 3 months at this point, was a guy who played these armies. And it's just him talking about how he uses armies, how he collect these armies. Again, limitations were basically around the box sets, which I basically had to tell them basically you have to use what the people can pick up. So it's not probably the best balanced army in the world, but it gives you an idea how to basically make your first 1,000 points of undead. Yep, it's 1,000 points, so that's like 995 points of even undead army there. Not the most effective in the world, but you know, collecting multiple box sets and how to basically build your armies is probably necessarily a bad thing. Covert Ops, I did this page here. I recognise it because it was designed as basically slotting anywhere page. The Dark Angel was a special character, Veteran Sergeant Naima. Dark Angel Scouts are now a whole lot deadlier. And so basically it's taking the Scouts and basically giving them a special character based off a really nice toy soldier that was made at the time. We have Chapter Approved by Andy Chambers and Gav Thorpe. Chapter Approved Wards, the beta testing and rules testing, and errata for the Warhammer 40k 3rd edition at that time. So this is a battle basically appear as a mini Codex upgrade here, so you can basically take the half a dozen Citadel Battle miniatures that were made by Jez Gruden at the time, the beautiful toy soldiers, and still remain some of the most best toy soldiers that Jez has ever done. And you know how you can use them in 40k and give you like a small mini Codex. I mean, they weren't an effective army, but the idea was that you could attach them to an Imperial Guard or Space Marines and give yourself a nice, I don't know, alternate force, a little bit like Regiments Renown to add. First Blood is a battle report by James Johnson. There is Adrian and Simon Schuster. Simon Schuster and Adrian did the gaming. James Johnson did some note taking. I did the map making, and actually I ran it a little bit here. In fact, I'm actually mentioned in this game here, and we talk about First Blood, which is a special scenario that we made up for this game. And this is basically Adrian Wood not using his Ork army, but using the studio's Ork army against Simon Schuster, using the Crimson Fist army that we had made for the Spaceman Codex at that time. So both armies are not the best armies to use. In fact, I mentioned at the end of Simon Schuster's introduction of why I chose what I chose. And I basically come in up here and say, hey, we're changing the entire mission, and you're playing it now at night, and because Paul told us to do it that way, and that's what this is all about. I actually was really cheerful about it. So, completely screwed up his plans, but basically made for an interesting and more rapid game. Adrian Wood here was forced to use the studio army. I still feel he should have been allowed to use his own army, but I know why we used it. In fact, you can see some Gorka Morka miniatures in here to basically make up the numbers. Yeah, I know. As I always mentioned before, Ever Metal armies were always printed for the box sets or for basically releases at the time, so they never were actually the best armies in the world. And so this is the Ork army that he was forced to use that we had in the cabinets at the time. He'd be much better off using his Ork army down there. And here's the army list, so you can basically see, you know, how these armies are put together, which I think is a very good feature we should be doing. And then there's the maps and the keys. And those who are familiar with 40k Battleports know you can follow the game along with the keys here and the description text, written by Jervis Johnson. I laid out the entire thing. Battle reports were very time consuming. They used to take about 3 or 4 days for us to do, from the initial gaming to basically getting the notes together. And it used to be like a day of building maps, because we had to basically draw these in oldest freehand at that time. I wonder what actually happened to them. I wonder if we still keep them. It'd be nice actually, because this is a hell of an archive for mapping. And we've got in shots of basically of the games of the major key points of the battle, which were shot at the studio camera. I still feel these should have been shot as the game went on, give it a little bit more fun and realism. But I know why we did it, so better lighting and all. And we got to the battle of Orks 7 here, and the Orks get their butts kicked. But Davis Johnson's, to be fair, mentions the fact that basically it wasn't Adrian Wood's actual army, because it would have been better. And even Sam Schuster was struggling because he's normally a Tyranid player, but he got to play Space Marines, and he's not really a big Space Marine player either. Turn the page here, we've got To the Victor, the Spoils, and and basically Adrian talking, I'll be back. This is one of the last times we actually see Adrian in White Dwarf. We had discussed in a previous video why Adrian is no longer work for White Dwarf. I'm not going to repeat that here. Simon Shuka is actually a Tyranid player, so you got a little confused. Like, should I charge? Should I fire? Because with Tyranids, what do you do back in the day? You used to charge them all forward, right? So, and then we go into the mail order section. Mail order section was laid out by me at this time. As you can tell, I went, we got to show toy soldiers. Always show toy soldiers. And I think I did a pretty good job of these. The real fun thing about this is you're looking at them going, yeah, the prices on these are pretty cool. So, they were expensive at the time, but if you think of the prices of toy soldiers nowadays and what they all were back then, that was virtually nothing, all things compared, right? And there's the Assassins for Codex Assassins. That's basically what we're going to be looking at straight after this jump here. And you can advance order your Codex out of, like $8, I believe, and you can get your basically box of Guardians here. The Guardians look really nice, don't they? Ork sticker bombs. We have the, what is that? That's the Razorback, the odd Space Marine tank. That was really not very good at what it did. And the Chaos Space Marine Bikers and Chaos Bikers and Doom Riders and that kind of thing. So, and there we go. We should turn over the page here, to the back page here. Praetorians! Everyone here remember the Praetorians? I certainly do. They were basically Mordans with basically pith helmet heads made by the Perry twins. This is very much a Orks Drift type scenario where they're surrounded, but they're going to get slaughtered. The Praetorians don't stand a chance here. But we can show the assassin up here, and there's the assassin on the rock here. I think I did this miniature layout here. This is the sort of thing that I would do for my many years when I was playing with Airfix soldiers, when I was a wee nipper, setting up these type of scenes, because you can see there's actual fighting going on, and we try to basically give it a sense of drama in these pictures. So that is White Dwarf 235, July 1999, and now we're going to have a quick look at Codex Assassins. Now, I'm pretty certain that I was part of the process of laying this book out, because I, as the only person in White Dwarf, had game production experience. But I have no memory of that, so I could be completely wrong. But let's go with the fact that basically I did help make this book, make this book, not make it happen, but make this book. This is covered by Wayne England, Eversaw Assassin. I really love his painting, really beautiful. This is a very short book, probably about 10 pages in total, probably 10 to 12 pages with some printers' pairs. And we look at the various types of assassins. These are all the assassins you can get at that time. Really like the Vindicator assassin I did. And, and we go into it. And each page talks about the introduction, what the assassins are, what they do. Basically, your independent, non-affiliated official assassin is the non-college assassins. So that gave you a nice, basically basic assassin to work from. It means you could use that really, really beautiful Jez Goodwin assassin miniature that was around at that time. And the reason I think I had something to do with this is because if you look at these pieces here, this is very rogue tradery, and that would have come, this would have come from me. Vindicator Templars, these are the shooty guys with the things here. Cluxus Templars, these are the ones that basically key with psychic projection. These are the psychic assassins, basically. Caladius, these were the shape changers, and Eversaws. Everybody's favourite Eversaws. They're not very subtle. They're basically fire and forget assassins. So these are basically nice use of the assassin moves, and gives you an idea of how to use them in your games. These can be used as allies for any force almost, but they have their own specific objectives, and they can be put on the Imperial forces as well. How to game with assassins. It talks about basically using one-man armies, how to do special scenarios, where you basically build a underground complex using the Space Hulk floor plan. So if you have him, and basically set loose Eversaw Assassin him and see how many people he kills before you can stop him. And covered assassins here. We turn over the page here one more time. This beautiful piece of artwork here. I think that is a Des Hanley. Let me have a quick look. Yeah, it's a Des Hanley. So that's a nice Des Hanley piece there. And then we have basically some. Oh, that's Des Hanley. That's Des Hanley. I think that might be Paul Smith. It could be Paul Smith. That's Paul Smith. That's Des Hanley's just there. Talk about some of the interesting known assassins, different paint jobs of assassins at the time. This was pulled from, I think, one of the... Oh, I forgot his name completely. But it was featured in a older White Dwarf, which was a Talon army. And it'll come back to me eventually, probably when I finish doing this walkthrough. And that's basically Codex Assassins. 10 pages of basically introducing the assassins, a assassin scenario, and their uses in the Imperium. So there we go, my friends. That is White Dwarf 235 and Codex Assassins retrospective walkthrough. I do thank you for coming this far with me. You guys are amazing. If you basically got over to the end of it, you're total stonkers in my book. Again, I urge you to basically back my Patreon if you want to see more of these retrospectives. I have two more White Dwarfs before I hit basically what I'm thinking might be the end of me doing these, because they do take valuable time away from me basically working on my comic books and books and script writing, which basically is a lot of work. In fact, they take a lot of my free time doing these Night Guardian books. This takes free time from that free time. So I know it sounds weird, but that's the way it is. But again, I thank you for coming this far. White Dwarf 235, July 1999, a White Dwarf retrospective. Please like and share and check out the next video. Thank you very much. You take care now, and I'll see you around next time for the next White Dwarf retrospective, which will be White Dwarf 236, the release of Codex Eldar. Bye bye bye.